It's time for the Pestrogen podcast with your hosts, Jenny and Kandyce.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Pestrogen podcast. I am your co-host Kandyce, alongside with, of course, the wonderful Jenny. How has your week been, baby girl?
It's been long and tiring and ants everywhere. There's
Good
ants
dog,
everywhere.
yes.
And
God.
rain, just nonstop rain and
Yeah,
ants.
you just went through that crazy storm. We were all worried about you and all the Midwestern everybody's.
Yep.
God,
and
that was crazy.
And I slept right through tornado sirens.
Okay, I don't know if that's a good thing.
That's what ant season will do to you. You sleep right through tornado sirens, okay? You're that tired. But yeah, it was all right. How was your week?
It was not too bad. We had like the end of the month, because it was right there on Monday, of course. But it was pissing down rain on us, of course. So we didn't work Monday. But then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we worked, got a bunch of stuff done, bunch of follow-ups, bunch of randomness. And then we took yesterday off, took the kids to a quote-unquote big city to celebrate their birthdays, because Jude was in January, Kyra's was just at the end of March. But, go buy them some stuff, let them be out in a big city. And then we ended up with 2 parakeets. So now I have 3 dogs, 4 cats, and 2 parakeets. So if you randomly hear them in the background, sorry, but they're fun. They are named Jaws, don't ask me why, and Marceline, once again, don't ask me why, but they're fun. Cute. They were super cute on the way home. They were freaking out, but not at the same time. It was funny. They were hopping around in their little boxes, and you can hear their little claws. It was great. It was a 2-hour trip home, but they survived, and they're having a blast now. I just had to kick my kids out of their room, well, out of the birds area, because they were playing with them and talking and being loud, and I was like, absolutely not right now. Give me like an hour. You'll be good.
Yeah. Oh, that's adorable. I love it. We have a special guest, don't we?
Yes, we do.
I'm so excited. I'll grab my pom-poms.
This week with us we have Jasmine Pest Pro, as everybody knows her. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi everyone.
Hi, friend. How are you? How was your week?
Oh man, so it was for me it was a really good week. I ended up taking on my first organic warehouse, which was crazy, but also I feel like I'm adulting, like in the business ownership side of things. I'm like, oh, I'm growing up so much, but then at the same time it was a little stressful. But it's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's organic only. It's like, oh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. It's just
a whole warehouse.
Something I just put more thought into. Yeah. And when it was somebody else's company, it was like, okay, I can lean on that a little bit. Now that it's mine, I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure I'm on top of everything. But actually, it's one of those things where I'll stress and then I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. This is fine. I've got this. So, yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah. And we saw in the groups you're doing your research for the mapping out, and that was really cool. I'm following that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, and that's another thing, like even in the past other companies I was with, because I did so much editing stuff, I would get stuck during maps. But when it was somebody else's company, I was like, well, somebody else, I don't know. It just felt more rewarding when somebody else was paying me for it. But when I'm paying me for it, I'm like, I do not want to do this. There's got to be a way I can do this faster. So, no, well.
Yeah.
I did get some good
smart, though.
I got to try out. Yeah.
Ooh,
perfect. That's
awesome.
What all these groups are for, is just the combining of minds to get the easiest but most efficient way to do it.
Yeah. Heck yeah. When Kandyce and I were asked you as a guest and we were talking about topics, you mentioned one really unique one and then one that would be super beneficial to like everybody. So I think we wanted to ask you about the super unique one, right? First,
Yes.
Kandyce.
Yes.
So falconry, like, how did you get into that?
Yeah, so growing up, my dad was like a real like backwoods kid and like a wild kid and free range. So were we. But he always told us he had a hawk that just fell out of a tree and they raised it. And I don't know. Sometimes he's a storyteller, and I always just ended up hearing that and thinking it was the coolest. I want a hawk. I want to go find a hawk in the woods or whatever.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, so is that how you, like, did you actually get your falcons that way, or did you actually, like, buy them or
actually,
whatever?
Yeah, so in New York, we have to trap them ourselves. So I always heard him saying how he had a hawk, and it made me want one. And right before COVID, I had started looking into it, and it is definitely a lonely person's hobby. So COVID was a good time to jump into it. And very, like, New York State regulates it like crazy. So I had to get licensed, had to build a structure for it. That had to be inspected. And all that happened during COVID. And then we go out and trap our own hawks in New York. I can only have either as an apprentice a red-tailed hawk or an American kestrel. And we have these traps that have a rodent in a cage and then a cage over that to protect the rodent. And then we tie all these nooses all over it. I should run and grab one, but I'm not going to. And we drive around until we see them. Thankfully, the migration comes right through our area, but they'll be all over the place sitting on telephone wires. We just chuck the trap out the window, drive a little bit, pull over and watch it, and then they'll come and try to eat the rodent, and they snag themselves in the nooses, and then we pull them off of it. And then it's just about brainwashing them to, like, partnership with us. It's so cool.
That's so cool.
Holy
like, that's
crap.
cool. Like, I was wondering how, like, the falcons and hawks and all that were caught, or if, like, you know, they were, you know, you had an egg and then you, like, raised the egg, or, you know, however. But that's so cool that you actually had to physically go out and catch one, but, like, make sure obviously that you weren't harming it in the process, because, well, that's messed up. And then what good is a broken bird to you anyways, if you're trying to, you know, use it to go do things with? And then there goes my new birds.
Yeah.
Oh.
See, it's bird talk. So New York, with the red-tailed hawks, you have to trap a first-year hawk, and they won't have the pretty red tail. They'll have like a barred tail. It'll look like a turkey tail. And you can only take first-year hawks. And the reason for that is the mortality rate on first-year hawks is 80%. More hawks get hit by cars than anything, which is crazy. But that means out of every 100, 80 of the first-year hawks die. So they figure they're actually safer in the care of somebody that's going to take them to a vet if they need to and stuff like that. And they are still actually, the whole premise of it and the stewardship behind it is keeping them so they are actually hunting. So the portion of taking them to get them to convert from being wild to being an actual falcon bird that'll go out and hunt with you in partnership, because that's what I'm doing, probably takes about a month, but you can do it in just a couple weeks. You bring it home and just keep it in the dark for a little while, and you get it so they'll perform based on like a hunger scale and a weight management. So you find out what their weight is, and then you'll find this sweet spot where they pay attention or where they don't. If they're too hungry, they won't want to pay attention because they're going to wait for an easy meal. If they're too full, they won't want to pay attention because they're so full. They're like, I don't need to listen to you, lady. So you find this sweet spot. And when they're in it, in the beginning, you're just having them sit in low light, so there's not a ton they can focus on your glove with like a leg of squirrel or something. And they'll just sit there and stare at it and stare at you with their mouth open, just like for real, until finally it gets brave enough and hungry enough where it'll eat off the glove. And as soon as it realizes you're not going to eat it, it's like I love this lady. She's the feeder, and I don't have to waste any energy. She just feeds me. So then, like, day after day, you do like little things like put it on a perch a foot out from you, and then blow the whistle and call it, so it'll just hop to the glove. And then after that, you move it like a little bit every day. And after a month of that, you have it like on a creance where it is tethered and it'll fly like a whole soccer field to you. And then you start out in the woods and it's off the tether. You just throw it up into the trees, but it knows it doesn't have to use as much energy to come to you with food versus actually hunt. So it'll follow you. Then you just go out someplace that's really squirrely or has a lot of game and you get that moving. And then it realizes, oh, like I'm its bird dog. It's like, oh, this lady's going to help me hunt. And it wants to do that because it's fun. But then it'll catch its squirrel or whatever. And you just trade off. You have a lure and trades off and switches over. And then you go out hunting. But so I've done falconry 4 years. I've had 4 different hawks every year. And, which you can do. You can keep them multiple years too, but because my summers are so busy, I'm just not devoting enough time to them. But because I'm hunting the whole winter, it doesn't lose any of that knowledge. It's able to go back into the wild and just pick off where it left off. And so we just set them free in the spring. I do my season and then retrap in the fall. But now my falls are also too busy. I probably spend, when I was doing falconry, 2 hours to 3 hours a day wrapped up in falconry stuff. So like I'd wake up early, get all my hawk stuff together, get my hawk in what's the giant hood so it can travel with me, put it in my work truck because I was working for other companies at this time, put it in my work truck, hunt during my lunch break, and then come home and then still have to do like my husbandry to put it away. It was just so much time. And just being a good steward of the sport, I couldn't do it for this year. But I get out with friends and do falconry. But it is one of my favorite pastimes. I just think it's the coolest.
That is super cool. And that's cool that like you realize that you just don't have the time to devote and you're not just being selfish about it. Like, I just want to keep my falcon or my hawk. And, you're like, okay, this bird needs to go free. It needs to do its natural thing. I can't do it anymore. Have at it, bro.
Yeah, that is really cool. I was catching up on Sean Muller's pest perspectives, and I was listening to the latest episode, and I was like, what are they saying? Birds and prey. And I was talking to Sean, but then I was talking to Lex from Beauties and Beasties, and I was like, Lex, what are they saying? What are they talking about? And Lex is like, oh, falcons. And I was like, what in the world? So he sent me some videos on Instagram. I haven't had a chance to check them out yet, but that led me to like Jasmine. I'm like, whoa, wait, what? Like people use them to scare off other birds and stuff? That's wild.
Yeah. And like the biggest question that I've had, and I know lots and lots of people probably thinking, is when you were doing it, can you do it for rodent jobs?
Yeah, so I always wanted to use it for rodent jobs, and you probably could to some degree use it for rodent jobs. You just have to, it's more easy to do it for bird abatement. So to a certain degree, they'll tire out quickly, especially some of these like high energy birds. They'll burn through their metabolism so quick, and then they kind of have to regain it back. And though you're feeding them, it takes a while for them to turn that into energy. So you probably can get like 2 or 3 rodents out of it. The problem is getting it to perform the way you want it to. So in the city of Rochester, squirrels everywhere, squirrels get into people's houses, and it would be really cool. But you'll get that one person or 2 people in the community that love their squirrels, and you can't control whether that hawk's going to want to stay in the property you're in or take off to another property. And also sometimes when they're so riddled with rodents, they'll just be like, you'll be focused on one spot and they're just like, I can do that easier if I go over here, and they just won't do it the way you want to do it. But the way they are using it for bird abatement is like they're just these hawks, because they're so food, or they're actually falcons, they're not even hawks, they're still in the bird of prey, they're just a more fast kind of bird of prey, but they'll be so food motivated they can send them out to do their task, and they aren't necessarily hunting those, they're just scaring them off or chasing them away and then coming back to the glove for the reward, and it's chasing away the prey instead of like actually killing it. So even if I was doing it for rodents, I would get like a squirrel or a rat or something, because I could use it for rats. And if it were a mouse, it would down that mouse in a heartbeat, and then it would take in all that calories, and then it would be too full, and it would be like, I don't want to work for you. But I would have to trade off to the lure for something in order for it to give the rat up to me. And even that is kind of a bigger meal for it to want to do it. So you probably could only do it like 2 or 3 times before it realizes like it's full, and then you got to put it away for the day. So in theory, if you had a bunch of birds, which some of these bird abatement places do, they'll come up with a truck like with a cap on it, and they have these cubbies that pull out with different hawks on it and stuff. And so I guess you could just keep flying a different bird.
That's so cool.
But it's better suited for a different type of pest control. Yeah.
That's cool. That is so cool. And you said you had a friend that does like the bird thing.
Yeah. Yep. So I normally associate it more with falconry in like California and vineyards and stuff, because they're protecting the grapes. But out my way in New York, they fly them at dumps, because the dumps will get seagulls like crazy on the dump. And when they're pushing just the materials around, all those birds are coming in, and it actually will create a dense cloud of birds. And if they fly the hawk before that, it'll drive them out of there before the machinery's going, and then they can do their things. But there's been times where like machinery will actually like accidentally run somebody over because the birds are so dense that they can't see what's going on. So they have these companies, like my friend Stuart owns a company where they come in and they actually have a station at the dump where they just come in and fly their birds out on regular schedules to scare them away. And then if they start getting dense again, they come out there with their falcons and fly them around, chase off the birds. And that's like a couple dumps around like New York and also in Pennsylvania. And to do that, you have to have like Stuart has a master falconry license, and that means he's held it and done it for so long that he's progressed to master. And in a lot of cases, like in New York State, you can't actually use your falconry to make money. There's just a loophole there with a state where there is a good partnership. But even myself, like I couldn't technically like exchange money at all for any of the falconry I'm doing. Somebody could make a donation. But then I think it would actually fall under teaching, and still with the license level I had, I couldn't do that either. So I don't know. For me, it was just a great pastime, but there is potential if you stick with it to do it for pest control.
That's cool. Okay.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Huh. I love it. Let's check your questions.
Okay, well, Brandon my husband, gave me a few questions for you. His very first one, we've already answered, was on how you got started doing your falconry. But we already got that one out of the way. So, more pest control related, what is your favorite pest to actually go after? Like when somebody calls you with that, hey, I have blah, 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 and you're just like, yes, let's do this.
Oh man, I guess it's kind of changed in ways. I used to love putting my bee suit on and doing any type of yellow jacket work. Now I'm like, yeah, I don't really care. No, I don't want it. There's nothing. I don't ever want to put my bee suit on. But I guess now I am in the more business ownership realm. I do really like just getting like cool commercial accounts call me, and that are like a little bit of a like somebody else has already been through here and it's a struggle, and I'm like, oh, okay, I probably should run from them because I know their trouble already, but I actually think of it as like a challenge, and so those ones are they're usually just the overly infested ones I like. But I also don't mind really highly setting expectations for my customer, where I know like a lot of my colleagues, at least locally, some of them aren't very great at confronting their customers with proper expectations, and I don't mind doing that. So I think it makes me all right at the challenge when it comes to it. So I don't know. I like the really grimy ones.
That's awesome. We saw that picture of you coming out of your crawl space work where you were just like head to toe covered in cobwebs everywhere, and you're like holding it up with your pinkies. That was funny. I was dying laughing at that one.
Man. Well, I did actually like that one too. And to the management company, I was like, oh man, this is really a struggle. I'm going to be down in this crawl space for a long time. But then also when I was in that crawl space, I was like, why am I doing this? I don't want to be down here. I'm like crawling through there. One of them had like sewage, but on another perspective there. So it's 8 buildings, and the one I was out to over the summer last year, and they had drain flies. And I'm like, there's definitely a pipe broke somewhere here because you're having this drain fly. And they were being especially discreet about it and weird. And they're like, we know it's a bigger problem than we can fix right now, so we just need this cleared out, blah, 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 blah. And where they were having it is like a split level. So where we live, there's like a lot of split levels. I don't know if that's where you guys are, where part of the house is in the basement and then part of it is above. And this was actually in the basement, which I thought was the actual basement. It wasn't. There's a basement under that basement. That's that crawl space I went through, but nobody ever told me that or ever even explained it. So then here I am crawling through these doing the inspection because they did find like a lot of rot, and they're like, we think we have termites, and they called me out for one building, and then they're like, we need you to go through all of the buildings. So I get in that one, and I'm like, instantly I opened up the hatch and I can smell the sewage smell, and I'm like, okay, this drain fly thing makes so much more sense to me now. And the property owners were like super discreet on that and weren't even like, I could have been so much more productive if they would have told me more about their building and I don't understand why they weren't telling me more about their building, but so stuff like that, like I get into that and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I didn't even know this about this building. And now that I'm doing a lot more work out there, I don't really mind crawling through all of those 8 nasty crawl spaces or whatever, but I definitely grumbled a lot. And man, so in that picture, I'm not wearing gloves. I went through every single building. I should have just dragged the box of gloves around with me. I probably should have put on like a garden glove or something because it was so gnarly. And then also right before that, I was out to my customer, but I'm now friends with her, Mary. And I was like, yeah, I'm a little overdressed for today because it was a warm day. I'm like, but I'm about to crawl through this gnarly crawl space. She's like, what about a Tyvek suit? And I'm like, I don't think I'll need the Tyvek suit. I'm like, nah. As soon as I got down there, I was like, I needed the Tyvek suit. I should have had the Tyvek suit.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's always those like, damn it, why didn't I do that? Oh, God. But yeah, I've been through those crawl spaces where you're like, I don't want to be in here. This is disgusting. And then you get out and you find your issue or whatever, and you get out and you're just like, fuck yeah, I did that. All right. That's always the rewarding part of it. I love that part like, when it's you find it and you're just like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And like so that property is part of like property management group, and that property management group now follows me on social media too, and I'm seeing that they're all liking. I'm like, good, it wasn't for nothing. I was like, they're impressed that I was crawling through their nasty basement.
That is awesome. That's so smart. Oh my gosh. So, and then his next question was, how did you get into the business? How did you get into pest control?
Okay, so it does actually tie a little bit into marketing. Right out of high school, I was like a teen pregnancy, and I had Olivia at 19 right out of high school. But before I graduated, I was going to trade school for commercial advertising. And when I found out I was pregnant with Olivia, I was like, I gotta get a real job. So I ended up just taking on customer service positions at like a bank, Washington Mutual. I don't know if they're still around anymore. and then Verizon Wireless, and Verizon taught me incredible customer service. But back then they had really good customer service. Now I call them, I'm like, I did better customer service than you guys ever do. But that kind of stuff kind of prepared me for it. But then I ended up just being a stay-at-home mom because I had my other daughter, and I did that for, like 7 years until they started school. And I was like, well, during that time, I started a photography business because I still had bills to pay and I was a stay-at-home mom. And in that photography business, I just learned to market that so it would keep selling. And it really taught, and I did it mostly through Facebook. So it taught myself the marketing that I needed that I apply now. But when my kids started school, I also didn't really think I was a good photographer. My photographer friends were like professional. They went to school for it. I didn't go to school for it. So I was doing really good work, but I just didn't have faith in it. And I would always be comparing myself to other people, and it was really toxic. So I thought when my kids went to school, I need to get a real job. I can't just do photography. So I applied for a local company that is like maybe 20 to 30 technicians, and we had 5 office people. So it was a little big local company. And I applied for a customer service position there because I thought that's all I would be able to do. And I had a history with Verizon and stuff. And there I was like amazing at sales. I was like selling through, like I remember, like, that's actually where Jazz's number 1 started. Is I was doing so good compared to the other representatives in the office on sales that I'd be like, Jazz is number 1, Jazz is number 1. I was so full of myself. But from there, they also didn't have any like marketing in place. They were a 30-year-old company and they didn't do anything except for the yellow pages. And we would be like, please, can we start a Facebook page? Please, can we do anything on Facebook? And they were so terrified to do that. Ownership was worried that PETA people would be like, you're harming the environment, you're killing animals, this is terrible. But the local Rochester library ended up experiencing bed bugs, just being brought in because people would come in, it is what it is. And the news called us to speak on it. And we convinced ownership to do it. And after that, he could actually see how it sold services because of being on the news. And he was always like, the news will twist this, they'll say it however they want. They could make us look bad, but it wasn't the case. And we ended up building a partnership with the local news and just getting on as much as we could. And so then he let me create a Facebook page. And so from there, I actually got pulled out of my office role. I took a long time to get to this point, but I got pulled out of my office role and put in a technician role. But also, thankfully, our operations manager there, Derek, was incredible at teaching pest control and making it really interesting. And he created this library for us, and he would sit down with every new hire and go through that whole library and say, okay, so for this pest, this is how we treat for it. These are the products we use. This is why that product works really good. And I'm especially ADHD, and I would just hyperfixate on the things he was saying. I thought it was so cool and so interesting. And so I kind of just learned to replicate it the way Derek taught me, and I just put it to use. And so then I got put in the tech role so we could still get marketing, and also they really needed technicians. And so I fulfilled both roles. And then they started changing, and retrospectively they sold, but they were preparing to sell. So they started changing, and I didn't like that. So I ended up leaving and going to another company where I got hired as an operations manager. And I loved it there very much, but then it just kind of fell apart, and I was not going back to a tech role under some other person. So I just started my own company, which was amazing, and here I am.
That's awesome. Holy roller coaster. So you started as a CSR, like a customer service?
Yeah. Yep. Which I think was probably, ended up dabbling and wearing so many hats. They would call me the Swiss Army knife, which I definitely fit that. And because I started in customer service, it really gave me the perspective on how to sell it. Then I went to marketing. I learned how to market it. Then they really prepared me for ownership without knowing it. Because then they put me in the tech role. And then, from there I ended up switching companies and just as a jack of all trades, kind of put it to work.
That's so cool. I love it.
It is.
Okay.
From our handsome cheese brother, Jack Starry over at TFTC. Guys, go listen to them. He wants to know, what percentage of business increase have you seen from your social media marketing?
Okay. I'm going to try and leave this, but I don't actually have the answer to that. So yes. I have this form that I send to all my customers because it's just me. It's a new customer form that I force my customers to fill out, and they cannot even submit that form to sign up for me unless they answer how they heard about me. Currently, and this only just started changing where the other areas are getting more heavy, 48% of my customers since I started came to me through Facebook. But that had been, up until this year, about 60-something%. And so definitely heavy on the Facebook side, but I purposefully built it in a way that would make sense. But now that things are rolling, I'm getting a lot of things that I consider as referrals from people. And so I put those into categories too. I have friends of mine, friends of customers, things like that. So I'm starting to see some of those actually trickle in where it's like, this specific person sent me, this group sent me, where that makes sense because people find me through Facebook and then it transitions into referrals. So,
yeah, that whole word of mouth thing. That's how we've done it all. I haven't spent a dime on advertising.
That's awesome.
Yeah, actually, so in that realm, the not spending a dime, I have boosted in the past, but usually it's out of snarkiness. It'll be something that I want my competitors to see, so I'll boost it so I know it'll show up on their algorithm. But otherwise, I don't really boost that. I actually looked before this started, and I'm performing at a better level than the other Jasmine Pest Pro page was performing. For a rolling month, I'm just looking at the number now. 168,000 for interactions, for people that have interacted with my content, where before I was on the other page, it was at 133,000. I looked on Facebook, and if I were going to boost for a dollar value that would give me that kind of reach, I would have to spend in one day's budget $1,000, and that would get me maybe between 64K and 184K. So, and this is a stupid thing in my opinion, about 30 days instead of one day. If I spent $1,000 in 30-day span, I would only reach 13,000 to 38,000. for the same dollar value. So if you're ever in the position of paying to do it, pay for 1 day versus a whole 30 days. You think in that whole 30 days, you're going to have time in front of people and it should be the same people you're going to reach, but it's not true. But from that perspective, I would have spent $1,000 to get the that I generated without boosting, just by putting myself in front of people organically on Facebook.
Okay. Wow. That's crazy. So Rodney Brum, our Canada friend, said, what marketing strategy have you noticed to be most effective for cost and time put into it? So I'm guessing that's probably Facebook.
Yeah, for sure, Facebook for me. And how I went about doing it, definitely. But that's also changed. So from back when I started in photography to now, Facebook has been aware. It became more aware of how great of a marketing tool it is, and it's always trying to manipulate people to pay for marketing. So it was a whole lot easier before, and then also when there was less people trying to utilize it for marketing, it was a whole lot easier too, because the general public wasn't being flooded by people influencing it. Was so when you did it back in the day, it was like really easy and it was great. Right now, you actually have to work a little harder. So back then, I used a lot of like garage sale groups. Well, these garage sale groups put a lot of restrictions on marketing because they don't want a ton of advertising on it and stuff. So you have to go through and find which have a lot of people in them and don't really care. So that way people see it. Then you want to also find the ones that people interact with. Thankfully, I think like I can think of this even better for sometimes other markets. Like I would be pretty all right offering these marketing services to just anybody, but a friend of mine owns like small engine repairs or something, and he's just starting to do all this like small engine repairs on motorcycles because the weather is getting nice and people are out there. And I'm like, man, you should join these Facebook pages for motorcycles in Rochester. And there is a specific one, and I was like, join that one and just share little reels about anything, you know, and that's how I can get around it. If I'm sharing Jasmine Pest Pro content that isn't salesy, and I'm just like, I don't know, me goofing around with yellow jackets or something, I'm like, oh man, it's a really hot day. I'm glad to be out in this great weather. And it's me goofing around with yellow jackets. I'm not being salesy, so their admins aren't flagging it like this woman's trying to sell. And then people love to watch that, and they're like, oh yeah, and they interact with it. And then on the back end, you just go through and like send your invites out to those people, so it boosts you up more, so they'll kinetically see it and stuff like that. So I've learned to just like manipulate it and work with the trend and stuff, but it was a whole lot easier before. It's a little more tricky now. But I've also built my Facebook from even this one, because this one's my OG one, but the other one, both of them, as I started them from scratch, I started them with the right flow to bring people in, if that makes sense.
That's your content, it really does bring people in, because like the one where you're like falling back into your truck, the one, Dan sent it to me, Dan Bird of PCHD, and he goes, what the fuck did I miss? And it's so funny because people know I'm such a fangirl of yours that they'll be like, I know you'll know what's she up to. So yeah. It's great. Love it.
Well, and that one too, so that was recycled content from the original Jasmine Pest Pro page from last year, but I know last year when I shared it, that me falling into the truck got 16,000 interactions, where the actual post that made sense only got like 3,000. I'm like, but I guess it just is like funny. People think I'm like glitching, so they're like, oh, let's watch that one over and over again. Or maybe it's because it's shorter. I have no idea, but yeah, and I guess I try to share them together because people were commenting on the one and they would be like, be gentle to your truck. And I'm like, if you only knew how many times I dove into that truck, it was beeping at me, telling me to stop, like, be gentle to me. And I just ignored it. Poor truck.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so from Sean Mueller, he said, is it best to make content for all socials so you can be seen everywhere, or just keep it at one?
Okay, so for me, Facebook works, and if you pay attention to the algorithms, you have to do it different for each one. Like, they just want different things, and especially now that TikTok and Facebook are one and the same, they really are. Like, there's an algorithm for one that still is salesy on the other, but they just want different things. So I'll see, well, okay, so for Facebook, I chose to use Facebook because I love all of you guys, but my intent originally wasn't to sell to you guys or to like build relationships with you guys, to reach people in Rochester. where on TikTok and YouTube and even kind of Instagram, you're casting a net to become viral to everybody. And I didn't care about being viral to everybody. I just wanted to reach the people in Rochester that were going to purchase my services. So I focus on Facebook because I know it's going to generate me money, and people will be like, well, you could go viral on Instagram and make money and stuff. And I think I'm doing it wrong. I'm not speaking the algorithm right, because I've probably made $6 in total in the last 4 years on TikTok, and on Facebook, I know I've only made $1.80, so, which is so sad. But from a viral perspective, from like trying to make money off of my content, but I'm actually making money off of my content because I'm choosing to sell it properly. So on Facebook, when I set that up for myself, what I ended up doing originally was I have, some of you know, I have my Facebook for Jasmine Allmeter, and then I have my Jasmine Pest Pro. My Jasmine Allmeter, I do keep kind of restricted because I tend to share my faith. I know people aren't going to be all about that. And then my kids, I don't want, there's some sketchy people out there. I don't want everybody looking at my kids or how I parent and stuff like that. So I kind of keep that one more reserved. But Jasmine Pest Pro, I don't also want to be flooding all my like Kendall community with like pest control. I just kind of want to keep them separated. So when I created Jasmine Pest Pro, I cast a net to my personal page with my friends and family. And I was like, hey, I'm starting this Facebook page for pest control. I don't want to spam you guys, but I'd love if you follow my content. And asked them if they would be friends with Jasmine Pest Pro. So they were my first group, and that would just be to make me look like a real person. So when I was sending requests out to other people, they weren't like, who is this bot? They would know I'm real. Then I shared like a welcome post so people would know I'm real. Like, hey, I'm really passionate about pest control. I love doing this stuff, whatever. It's there somewhere. You can go back and watch the video, but so that way also people coming to my page would know I'm a real person and not a robot. But then I started casting to people that I believed or I know to be in the right place to purchase pest control, which for pest control is realtors. Realtors want to be your friend because they want to sell houses too, and they always accept your friendship, and they're going to love your content. Mostly, I think they'll love your content. They'll want to share your content with their clients, which is where I want to be. And they too probably, which I'm finding, own a lot of properties. And it's easier to put it on somebody that they trust. And when you're on social media like this, as long as you're not a Yahoo, they pretty much trust you. So I went and friended as many Rochester realtors as I could, which was amazing. And immediately those people started being like, oh, this girl Jasmine, I see this girl on Facebook, Jasmine, whatever. From there, I started to then hunt down Rochester icons because I wanted to be associated with the icons. So in our area, we have Wegmans, and Wegmans is like that supermarket. It's like, you know, they above and beyond, and people are willing to pay for it because it's got the Wegmans brand to it. And I wanted to be associated like a Wegmans, so I started finding other Wegmans kind of people. So like Rich Eyed, which is a car dealership around here. Randy Sperling, who does some marketing. He's an interesting character though. Just like a handful of iconic Rochester people and like groups and places, I became friends with them because I wanted to be associated with that group of people. Then I had to start interacting with those people though. So if I saw their content, I was going in and being like, any old thing. Oh my God, I love that for you. That's so funny. You're so funny. Just so I would show up on their content and they'd be like, I notice it when people are showing up on my content regularly. And I'm like, oh, they're my Facebook friend, you know, and that's what these people were doing. Oh, Jasmine's here. Jasmine. So then I started to be recognized, and just because I was interacting with the right type of content. After that, I started friending their friends. Olden day Facebook would let you do that, and it would not think you're spamming people. Now, modern day Facebook, today I am on a hold, actually, because I did this. You can get maybe 20 friend requests in, and then it's like, we think you're spamming people. And so you got to watch out what you do. But back then, you could go through and just be like, I'm going to be friend with Rich Ide's friends and start sending them to people that I know want to buy cars. They'll want to buy pest control. They're in a place where they're ready to purchase. Same with my realtors and stuff like that. Just build up my Rochester friends, because who cares? You know, they're going to see my content. They're going to be people that probably will be in a position of needing pest control or knowing somebody. And as long as my content is wholesome in the right area, they're going to be willing to refer it. So I just built that up. And then I started sharing my content in garage sale groups and Rochester groups and things like that. So people will see it. And then also I started getting tagged in things like people will say, hey, is there any good pest control out there? People will tag Jasmine Pest Pro. I'll go in there and interact with it. I'll gratitude. I'm like, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And then people are like, she really appreciates this. We want a person like that. So they are more willing to work with that. But then I would quickly, even if it just like pull over and make a quick video. Hey, my name is Jasmine. I'm the owner of Residential and Commercial Pest Pros, and we do this, just a little snippet or whatever, and share that. And the video is like, does it. People are always, pest controls of Rochester are all like, me, begging. Whatever it is about that video, people love it. So I throw my video up there. Now also, because in my area I was one of the first to do it, the other guys aren't doing it. I think it's out of pride, or they're just like, well, Jasmine's already done it. We'll be copying Jasmine. So if you're in an area that's different from me, go ahead and do it. You know, like, it'll wow people. They'll love it. And they'll feel like they're connecting with you, or that you want to connect with them before you get in the door and stuff like that. So I did it in the right way to build Facebook, so that way people would want to interact with it. And I sold specifically to Facebook. Now, everybody's like, put your content on YouTube, put your content on TikTok, cast it out to these other ones. My Facebook naturally puts it on my Instagram. People tell me all the time, I saw you on Instagram. I don't ever put any focus on it. And I use TikTok a lot for creating content. And there's like almost two different generations. Our generation is getting on TikTok, but a lot of them aren't on TikTok still. And so when I share TikTok content that I create on TikTok to Facebook, people are like, she's so creative. Meanwhile, like 100 other content creators are doing it. Like this jumping into my truck thing. If you're like scrolling, at least on my algorithm on TikTok, when I'm scrolling through there, it's a bunch of different businesses doing transitions. Like Camels Kick Them. They're like, I don't know, water splashes and something else comes from it. And I'm like, I'm just following the trends. But people on Facebook don't even realize it. And they're like, she's so amazing. I'm like, I know. Thank you so much. But, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, you got to play to your audience, man.
Yeah, definitely. I am that millennial that doesn't TikTok, but I'm the millennial that knows that you probably recorded it with TikTok. But yeah, I'm one of those.
Yeah.
Old people.
I think it's just this is a benefit to having kids at 19, because they are like, TikTok used to be Musical.ly, and it used to be way more wholesome, and my kids would be like, make Musical.lys with me, and so I got sucked into it, but that's like, not everybody is, so it's just young momage, I guess.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. My oldest is 19, and I still have a video that was done for me by them through Musical.ly, and then then it turned to TikTok. But yeah, so I know of TikTok and dabble in it little bits, me personally, not for my business, because yes, I have a 19 and a 15-year-old, so, and then I'll get the, ew, mom, your stuff is so cringe. Meh, I thought it was fun.
Exactly.
Well, so my 14-year-old is always telling me everything I do is cringe, but my 18-year-old is starting to be like, oh, Mom, that's really cool. Now, she would never do it herself, but she's starting to see value in things I do. So it does come full circle, at least.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I just saw one that actually got posted.
Ooh. You go ahead.
You want?
Yeah.
Okay. One that just got posted on your Pest Cemetery post. From Dan Porter. He said, I've got a question. Since her last several videos posted herein were so good, how do you battle social media fatigue? Posting relevant, often funny reel/video content is harder than it looks and can be incredibly taxing. Coming up with the concept, recording it multiple times because it's never right the first time, editing it, adding audio, it gets to be a drag after a while. So how do you deal with it?
Yeah, so I notice it like right now, coming out of winter, I have a lot more time on my hands, and so it's easier. But I think if we look at my May and August of every year, we'll see that I almost stop sharing content, or I'll just share literally anything. But that's the thing, like, even when I share literally anything, people are still cool with it. So I think that has to be something you're all right with. If you have like a cool idea, dive into it when you have the time to do it. But when I get overwhelmed with it, I really will just lean on sharing just like a picture or two of a job, and I even lean on ChatGPT to write it up sometimes. So, for instance, sometimes they even perform better, but I'll get into, in my summer months, I'll do less videos, so I know that's really what people want from me, but I'll start sharing like a close-up on a yellow jacket nest, me selfieing with the yellow jacket nest, and maybe like spray or dust or something of that sort. Just 3 pictures to tell a story, so people think they're getting the video experience. And then I'll go into ChatGPT and I'll say something like, just treated this yellow jacket nest with this product, rewrite this with humor, and she'll spit out something. I'll paste that in and just put it up quick so I can get done with my day. However, we'll have to see how that goes this year, because I am really focusing on the performance metrics that Facebook is giving me, and it will be like share a story every day, and I'm working on that right now. I still am, share a story every day consecutively for a week or something. And then even that though, like I know yesterday I just shared me pointing at newspaper up in the insulation because I needed to share something, but it's like, I don't know, I had a lot going on yesterday. So I'm like, I don't have time for this. And so then I'm just doing more basic, boring pest control. But because it's that way for me, doesn't mean it's that way for the people following me. They still actually think it's really cool. Now, then I'll accidentally stumble upon something fun like those crawl spaces. I knew coming out of that, like, people will love the grossness of that. So I'm like, okay. I did take videos a lot of the time. I'm taking videos just naturally, and then I'll be like, I have a lot of videos of it. I'm like, I do not have time to put this together in any type of a video. And I did. I put like a quick story of me pointing at a house centipede or something, but there is way more content I did nothing with. And that's the reality is I have a ton of content just sitting on the phone. I'll go through in the winter, and sometimes I do this. I'll go through in the winter and take that and repurpose it, and then I'll save it under a file of content, and then later on I'll reshare it or something. I have like a lot of yellow jacket stuff from last year that's that way, and thankfully it's okay. I think if people paid attention, they'll be like, Jasmine's wearing the shirt from last year, or Jasmine's hair is long. She doesn't have long hair right now, or something like that. But I guess I feel weird about it when I'm talking to pest control like you guys, because I feel like you guys can see through it and maybe you can't. But my customers in Rochester they're none the wiser. And so if it's selling pest control, it's selling pest control.
I mean, people like us that are, doing this job as well, we obviously know that not every day is this spectacular, all these cool, amazing things happen to you. But, if you're posting cool things that happen to you every day, it's obviously going to be something that has happened. Maybe it wasn't that day. Maybe it was last year. Maybe it was 2 days ago, who knows? But it's still cool to just constantly show that all these cool different things can happen. It's just not necessarily on a everyday basis, because nobody has jobs like that. I'm sorry. I have days where, I had, the other day, I was like, I didn't have anything to take a picture of today. That kind of sucked.
Yeah.
I'll even just take pictures of dead rodents to send to my husband and be like, look at the one I caught today. But it's like the other day, I'm like, I didn't have jack shit. I'm like, it was the most boring, mundane day, but I mean, it was still a day I had to get through.
And I've gone through like a depression a few times, but where I just don't even give a F about anybody. I don't want to share content. I'm definitely not joyful or anything like that. And I'll just lean on old content and stuff or whatever. But I just do identify that it's a marketing tool, so I'll just go back and pull stuff.
Jenny, I think you're muted, babe. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it was just me not catching you.
I didn't catch it either.
I shouldn't be. Hi. About this in regards to Pestrogen, because the group was started and everything, and our mod chat went almost a whole month of not even talking to put into a new group, and I'm like, man, I need to share content or whatever. But this isn't it had me thinking before this episode about how much work that has to be to own your own business and do that, because even working bits of each account and my phone and whatnot, but I don't take a lot of photos on my personal phone because I ain't got time for that, right? So I totally get that fatigue, and it's got to be really challenging owning your own business and having to do that.
Oh yeah.
Well, and some of that,
I definitely don't do it as much as Jasmine, and I probably should. But at the same time, I'm just like, whatever. I still have people coming to me, so I'm okay with not going insane with it right now. But yeah, I could definitely see how the fatigue would set in real quick.
I think it's a little bit of an ADHD thing for me too, though. I'll hyperfixate. I know it's something I deal with, but I'll hyperfixate on whatever I think is fun. And thankfully, I think marketing is fun, so I hyperfixate on it, and it makes pest control, especially the, I guess, everyday work grind of pest control. It makes it a little more fun for me when I think of it as I'm doing marketing for pest control versus doing pest control. So I guess it's a brokenness, but I turn it into a good thing.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yes. We did have one more question from none other than our Heather Tutton. She asked on LinkedIn, not so much marketing, but falls under the blanket. Any help on Google Maps? Ours was banned and deleted our address, sold the building, switched to service only, did all the things, and were banned. It took 2 years to be allowed to get another listing, and now we're located desert over an hour away. I've reset the PIN only to be denied and moved back. How can one get a human at Google to help, or do we need to hire someone? I see this happen to a lot of PCOs.
Yeah. So that's the struggle. I literally pulled my hair, and mine wasn't Google. I think I would just have died if it was my Google, and I actually thought it was. I thought I had messed up my Google too. That's a thing. I don't know how you'd get a person. I don't think you will get a person. I feel like even with Facebook, and they're all in the same realm, and I don't think they even want to invest in that type of customer service. They just want you to start over, and that's so crippling. The Facebook thing, thankfully I was able to start over with my old Jasmine Exodus account. And I think it would have come around, and maybe that's the way of thinking about it. Think positively and just rebuild it. Think I know how to do this, and heck, you'll be better at building a company somewhere else because you already know how to do it multiple times for your current business or something. But starting it from scratch was my option, and then luckily a month later, well, I say luckily, I didn't even use it. A month later, more than a month later, Facebook came around like, hey, we think something's wrong with your account. I'm like, I've only been submitting service tickets to you, which took me forever to even figure out how I could submit a service ticket. And here I'm on, like, I don't know, Google, just searching how to do it. But that's the thing. Like, I also thought at the same time, I had set up 2-point authentication on my Googles, and then I reset my phone because I was convinced they had access into my actual phone's data too. And when I did that, it wiped out my phone as a point of like contact, like a known device. And I'm like, oh crap, I just locked myself out of my Google I've had like since I was 18 or something like that. And I like have everything on it, and let alone my business, and I was gonna have to start over that. Thankfully, I had this laptop logged in, and I was able to get in through that device. But there isn't. And you Google it, and they're like, you need to submit a ticket through them. Like, okay, how do I submit the ticket through them? There's no answer. And unfortunately, I don't think there's an answer for that. I think it is, you have to start from scratch. And I identify that would be devastating. It must be so hard to recover from that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, we read through all the questions. No, I think that's all the questions. So, those from the crawl space, since they've started their lives, it's been pretty cool. You should definitely check out Tales from the Crawl Space. Jasmine, thank you so much for joining us. I believe the most like outgoing thing I've ever done, and I'm glad it worked out. It was a lot of fun. So cool.
I'm happy to be here. I think it's fun.
Anything else, Kandyce?
Gotta figure a way to put this all organized.
No, it's been very informative, between just learning about the falconry stuff and what you can and can't do with it, and even how you trap them to begin with, all the way to marketing. Like, you gave me a lot of good ideas to kind of boost my business in locally when and if the time comes. Yeah, it's been crazy informative for me in all different aspects.
And that's the thing, like, people will reach me and ask me questions all the time, and I'm happy to answer any of the questions and stuff, and I will guide people through, and I'll try to structure it out, let other people do it, and it's something that I so much fun, so I don't mind even sharing about it. So feel free to circle back to me anytime. I feel like I might have said this to Jenny. I feel like I tell people all the time, because I'm like, you have no idea, it's so cool, you can do this too. And then people just are like, oh, that's a lot of work, and then they don't do it. But I'm happy to help people do it. I'll even take over. You can send me your content and I'll help you I'll get my kid to help do it. But yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone
awesome.
for joining us. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Pestrogen Podcast. And we had the lovely Jasmine Pest Pro. Check us out next week. Thank you. Okay.
Bye.